YouTube, Rook here from Rook Geek Goodness, my little channel on the web for all things geeky and cool. In this video, guys, we have another action figure review. We're going to be looking at the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch scale Gamestop Exclusive Inferno Squad Agent from the Battlefront 2 game. Now, just so everyone will know, I've been looking for this figure for a while now. Ever since the Battlefront 2 game was announced, they actually had promotional shots of this figure. I thought it looked really, really cool. I wanted to get my hands on it. Now, this came out, like I said, about a few months ago, and the funny thing is about Battlefront, several years in the past, when the original first Battlefront game came out for Star Wars, they had an Imperial Shock Trooper. I'll put a picture up here. I've talked about that before in other videos, but they actually had that one, which was a Walmart exclusive, again in the 6-inch scale Black Series. I actually had that figure in my hand, and I was walking around the store, the Walmart, my local Walmart, for a while. Near the checkout, I actually just dropped it and didn't buy it. And to this day, I kick myself in the ass for not picking it up. It has a price point of about, I've seen it going for about 50 bucks US. I mean, I could buy it if I wanted to, but I really don't want to spend that type of money for that figure, but it looks cool. How many times do you see a red and white decoed Stormtrooper in this day and age? You don't really see those type of figures. Those were the exclusive figures for Walmart. Now, before I go into the breakdown, I just want to have full disclosure, let you guys know, this is not a TIE Fighter pilot. It may look like a TIE Fighter pilot. There's a lot of similarities. They actually reused this figure for the original TIE Fighter, which is part of the Wave 4 figure, for this character. They actually took the entire figure, redesigned a few pieces for it. There are some differences between the two. They are pretty much a variant. They are, I will say that now, it's pretty much a variant. It's very, very close between the TIE Fighter pilot and Inferno Squad Agent. I do not have the TIE Fighter pilot from Wave 4, nor do I have the First Order TIE Fighter pilot as well. So I had to go online and look at pictures to try to compare and contrast what they actually look like. So I might get a couple things wrong. Just want to let you guys know up front. So with that being said, we're going to go to a full breakdown segment. We're going to look at the packaging as a whole. We're going to look at the paint, the articulation, and accessories, and conclude the video and final thoughts for you, the viewer, should you actually pick up the GameStop exclusive Inferno Squad Agent from Battlefront 2. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to go into a breakdown. Alright guys, we're in our breakdown segment looking at the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch scale Gamestop exclusive Inferno Squad Agent. And the very first thing we always do in our breakdowns is look at the packaging as a whole. Again, this is very similar to Black Series presentation. You have Star Wars Black Series at the top. You have the figure within the actual packaging. It's open so you can see the figure. You have, of course, any accessories on the side usually, which is this blaster rifle. You have a shot of the actual Inferno Squad Agent. It looks very similar to the TIE Fighter pilot. You have only a GameStop little sticker right here. You have the name of the figure, which says Inferno Squad Agent. Over here you have Battlefront 2, and you have the Hasbro little logo right there. On this side we have the Inferno Squad in red and black trim like we always do. It says Inferno on the back. And on this side you have the sort of bright red, dark red trim. It says Inferno Squad right up there. It's hard to notice. But if you ever see a Black Series figure with no number listed at the top here on this side of the packaging, that means it's an exclusive to a particular store. In this case, of course, GameStop. And on the back of the actual figure, you have a little write-up of the actual figure itself. You have a little picture right there, which is the same as the front. If you want to read it, you can pause the video here and read the little description, which is right here, a little paragraph of the figure. Now, if you're curious about the Inferno Squad itself, they're basically a squad that was designed by the Emperor himself. It's a special elite program that the Emperor designed in the Return of the Jedi, which I never really talk about. Is now canon in the actual Star Wars universe. It takes place right after Return of the Jedi. Literally, right when the second Death Star explodes is where the Inferno Squad have a very prominent role in the actual Star Wars universe. That's where Battlefront 2 right here takes place. So that being said, let's actually take this figure out of packaging and continue with the breakdown. Alright, we have the Inferno Squad Agent out of packaging. And the first thing we always talk about is both the paint and presentation. But I want to make a little footnote here and just still reiterate to the actual viewers, this is simply a TIE Fighter pilot's buck. They retooled the TIE Fighter pilot and repainted, made different color accents. Where there was silver trim on a TIE Fighter pilot, they removed it and put a red deco now. They put red decos across the arms and the leg, at least on the right arm and right leg, which would be the left side for you. They removed the actual computer of the TIE Fighter pilot on the left arm, have this little red piece of paint here, and retooled this chest apparatus with a different little computer piece and changed the belt. Those are the changes between the TIE Fighter pilot and the Inferno Squad Agent. Again, does everyone know that right now before I go any further? So let's actually look at the paint as a whole. This is a black shiny paint. It doesn't have any fingerprints from what I'm seeing here. I do like that. It is all black through the entire figure with that red accent, which I mentioned before, the red deco. They have it across on the helmet here. There's an area where the hose connects in this area The actual helmet, the actual face right here, the original TIE Fighter pilot didn't have this little red glow behind the helmet. It might be hard to notice, but there's like a very subtle red hue from the actual goggles underneath the actual helmet. I do like the way it looks. There's red trim on the actual shoulders. Again, I mentioned the red trim going down the entire arm of the figure, and this red trim going down this side of the figure as well. They did, like I said, they retooled the actual box right here, but we'll talk about that further in a second. The only other issue I really have with the presentation of the figure, they did have a little blemish here on the back. I think it was bad paint, and he does have this actual holster where you can actually put his accessory, which we'll talk about that in a second. So let's talk about articulation. This figure has the identical articulation that the TIE Fighter pilot has, and the issues with the TIE Fighter pilot were represented in this figure as well, meaning these hoses that you see here limit the actual range of motion the head can turn because these are plugged into the actual chest. It doesn't give you a lot of movement for the head. As you see me moving here, the actual hoses move with it. It does hinder the articulation a lot, but these can be removed. You simply unpeg it here, and you see a little peg point that's right here that just simply inserts into the bottom of the actual helmet, and it plugs in with a nice little snap. I do like the way it snaps in. It's very, very snug. It won't fall out by itself unless you pull it. Unless you twist the head a lot, you might have it pop out. You can remove these hoses just like the TIE Fighter pilot, but I would leave them in place. They look right, look screen accurate to me. And again, this takes a lot of liberty from the actual Battlefront 2 game. This is how the actual characters are represented in that video game. Now, we'll keep going to articulation here. The arms. The arms can go out to a full T, as you see here. Full 360 here. You may run into a little bit of a clipping from the actual hoses. You shouldn't have any real big problems there. As far as the actual bends in the actual biceps, you can get a full bend here. There is a 360 swivel at the actual bicep and the forearm port here, at least the connection for the forearm. You can spin it 360, and the wrists have full 360 movement as well. There is no chest crunch. There's no ab crunch, but you can spin the actual chest 360 as you see me doing here. Mine's a little tight, and I wanted to mention that now. All the joints on this figure are extremely tight, and it's very, very difficult to get them into a decent stance because the feet are popping a lot. They're clipping a lot, and you have to really break the actual joints in to get it stand properly, just so everyone will know that now. Again, we talked about the actual belt here, this accessory. This is a Stormtrooper belt. It's just painted black. The original belt on the actual TIE Fighter pilot was not this belt. It was a completely different belt. Again, I'll put a picture here so you can see what it would look like. It's different than this actual belt here. They just repurposed the Stormtrooper belt and painted it black. If we keep going down, the articulation of the legs, you can get them into a full split. You can get a nice kick out of the actual figure. The legs themselves are double jointed at the knee, as you see me doing here. Again, we have this paint deco, this red line that goes down the leg, and the actual feet, the legs themselves, there's no bend on the actual ankle port, the thigh portion here. You cannot, this will not bend. You can just bend it at the knee, but there's no point of articulation, the swivel here, but there is swivel movement for the entire foot. This foot can spin 360 and go up and down. So there is a lot of articulation on the feet themselves. They are a bit tricky to get him into a stance because of the actual tightness of the actual joints. And you see me here trying to fiddle with the actual legs to get him into a decent pose. It is a little tricky, just to be warned now. As you see, I'm very, very difficult to try to get it back into a decent pose, decent stance, because the joints are just, it's very, very tricky. Heard the leg pop right there? I want to leave that in the actual video so you can hear how I clipped it in place. Now let's actually talk about the accessory. It comes with one accessory. It comes with the actual typical Stormtrooper blaster. This was the actual blaster rifle that came with the TIE Fighter pilot as well. Again, same design, same deco. I don't even think they rechanged the actual paint. I think it's identical to the TIE Fighter pilot. Now this can actually be wielded by the actual character. The figure can hold the actual gun with no issue. You can put it in this hand, as you see me holding here. So it does hold it rather well. I do like how it actually can hold it without having any issues. It does not drop it. You can hold it in the left hand, but this has a sort of like a little trigger finger, kind of sort of how it kind of bends the finger. You can hold it in the other finger. So this is ambidextrous as far as how you can actually put it in either the left or right hand, depending on what you wanted. I would think if it's more in this hand than it would be in the left hand, at least from what I'm seeing here. It looks like it fits better in the right hand, which would of course be your left. But it does look really, really well in the figure. Very, very similar to the TIE Fighter pilot. The holster does actually work. We'll take a look at the holster now in the back. It really designed to go only one way, where you basically have this little ammo section here kind of sticking out, this little protrusion on this side. That's really where it's designed to be plugged in place. That's kind of how it's built, and it does fit rather snugly, as you see here. Holds really, really well. It's not going to come out. This is sort of a, I would say, a little rubbery material. It's not going to really decay over time. It looks rather strong. It's not going to break, and I do like the way it looks. I do think it's a really cool figure. I highly recommend this figure. Definitely check this figure out if you want to pick him up for your collection. And with that being said, let's go to final thoughts and wrap up this video. Alright guys, final thoughts on the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch scale GameStop exclusive Inferno Squad agent. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video and in the breakdown, this is basically a TIE fighter pilot just redecoed and redesigned some elements of it. The belt, which was redesigned off original Stormtrooper belt, just painted black. They repurposed the actual chest console here, made it different, and on the arm, which I showcased in the actual breakdown, they removed the little control box that a TIE fighter pilot had there. But all things considered, it is a glorified TIE fighter pilot. If you have a TIE fighter pilot, you may not want this figure. I didn't own either the TIE fighter pilot or the First Order TIE fighter pilot, so I wanted the Inferno Squad agent. Plus, I missed out on the Battlefront first one, which is the Imperial Shock Trooper. I wanted this figure because I actually let myself down missing it then. I wanted this figure now. Again, this figure takes a lot of liberty because this is how the figure looks in the Battlefront 2 game as one of the Inferno Squad agents. This is how they're represented in the game. I don't want to get into spoilers. I don't know if this is the actual main character that they talked about in the actual campaign mode. I would assume that's the main character, but the main character has a little droid that comes with that character, which is a female, and it would have been nice if this was taking, you know, preference to that character, if they would have had maybe a droid either with the legs up or legs down so you can actually peg it into the back of the figure, which is what the actual figure does in the character does in the actual game. My figure had very, very tight joints, and it was very, very difficult for me to actually get her posed, as you see here. I had to keep fiddling with the actual legs and get the stance right, so you may run into issues with yours. Just break the pegs, break the joints down a little bit, and you should be okay. Would you buy this figure? That's what you have to ask yourself at the end of this video. Would you purchase this figure? Well, you have to ask yourself a question. First, do you have a TIE fighter pilot? If you have a TIE fighter pilot, you may want to pass on this figure. I didn't own either of them, like I said before, and I wanted to get this figure. I got this for about $22 US at my GameStop. I would not spend more than 25 to 30 bucks on this figure. Definitely don't pay flipper costs on it. Don't go 40, 50 bucks. There's no need. Go to your local GameStop. You should be able to find it. Probably if you go to GameStop online, you'll be able to get there as well. But don't spend too much money on this figure. It's not worth that amount of money. Definitely a great figure, not a high commanding price point. So I hope you liked this video, breakdown and review of the Star Wars Black Series GameStop exclusive Inferno Squad agent. Click that like button. Always click subscribe, which is a picture of my face. If you click subscribe, click the little bell icon so you'll be notified of all my future videos. And last but not least, you can click Windows to watch more of my content. Take care, guys. I'll see you next video, and bye-bye.